nice to be here with you all. It's really nice, actually, to see wonderful friends and new faces, and I'm happy to be here. We're going to be talking today about really how can we find a sense of goodness in every aspect of our lives. But before we get into the talk, which will then be followed by a guided meditation and some discussion, I'd like to first bring everybody into presence together here as a group. And one of the ways that we can do that is through sound. Some of you may have seen in the email that I promised a special little treat. I brought, this is not a bat. Some might think it is, but this is actually a didgeridoo. This is an Aboriginal instrument from Australia. This particular one was made here in Vermont by a local artist, and you can see I'm kind of halfway through decorating it, so it's in transition. But what I'd like to do is play this instrument and allow us to come into presence by bringing our attention to the sound of the didgeridoo. And that way we can kind of ground ourselves, we can bring ourselves into focus and let go of anything that we might be carrying around from the day, from the weekend, and bring ourselves into the here and now together as a united group, a community, wonderful group of people that are here to practice. So here is a taste of the didgeridoo. Thank you. So, what I'd like to explore with you today is something that really affects all of our experiences throughout the day. The frame of mind that we approach each different phenomena that we encounter in life. In everything, we can find something that is pleasurable, interesting, something that we have gratitude for, or in every moment we can find discontent, we can find irritation, we can find longing for something else. And we have been conditioned, and I think culturally, we have come to this conclusion that in order to be happy, and we all want to be happy, there has to be a certain set of circumstances that are lined up within which we can exist happily. And if we don't have those circumstances, then happiness is impossible. And therefore, we have to change everything around us in order to get to those circumstances. I don't believe this to be true. In my own experience, and what I find to be true is that and what we'll be exploring is that we can actually find what I call goodness, which I'll define in a few minutes, in any circumstance, regardless of what it is. No matter where we are, no matter what is happening within us, what we're feeling, no matter what we're experiencing, we can always figure out a way to make use of each situation, to find interest in it, to find some aspect of goodness within every single circumstance. And I think that one of the things that's become clearer for me recently is that this is actually a fundamental part of what's going on with a lot of the problems of the world. So we've been told, for instance, we have to look a certain way in order to be happy. We have to have a big pile of money and a sports car in order to be happy. So we're willing to do things in order to get that happiness, in order to get those conditions to be the way that we're told through consumerist society and culture. We're willing to do whatever it takes in order to get to this place of happiness where we have everything set up and we have the mansion or the sports car or whatever it is that you think about those commercials with it's like an infomercial. It starts out black and white. And it's like, do you have this horrible thing in your life that makes you unhappy? And it shows somebody oh, this is really bad. I don't like this. Well, if you have our product, then it goes to a color screen and the person's all happy. Then you will be happy. You just have to make 6 installments of $19.95 and your life is going to be great. And the underlying concept behind that is you have to have things be a certain way. You have to have certain things that you own, for instance, that those conditions will line up for you to be happy. And therefore we're trapped. We're trapped in a sense that we always have to be creating the conditions around us for our own happiness. And if we don't have the right conditions, then we're totally at the whim of whatever's happening around us. And by around us too, it doesn't necessarily have to be just in the physical world around us. It can actually be the experiences that we're having, such as emotions or physical sensations that you would think of as within us, that could be defined as within us. I think of an example. Back in the day, I used to smoke cigarettes, and thankfully my mindfulness practice actually was a big part of what helped me to move beyond that part of that unfortunate part of my life. But in that circumstance, there was a discomfort that was associated with craving of cigarettes. Really unpleasant feeling, kind of itchiness almost, it felt kind of didn't feel good when I didn't have any cigarettes, or I didn't have a cigarette for a while. So in that circumstance, I was I don't like this. I can't really be happy if I have this feeling, so I'm going to try to fix it by smoking a cigarette. Now, thankfully, we've had a lot of education since I've been born that cigarettes are horrible for you. We all know this. This is they kill you. They literally kill you. And yet, here I was with that knowledge, even though I had that intellectual knowledge, that sense that the only way I can feel okay is to make these unpleasant feelings go away is to light up a cigarette. And I mean, it was powerful for me, the addiction. I remember walking down a city street and smoking a cigarette, and I walked by this little child and her mother and this little girl, and I was smoking a cigarette, and I'm my smoke was getting everywhere, around, and this little innocent, beautiful child. And I was wow, I feel terrible, but I kept walking and I kept smoking because I didn't want to feel, I was convinced that in order for me to be okay, for me to have contentment, I had to keep changing my experience to go away from the unpleasant feeling of the discomfort of craving into the contentment that came with removing the craving. So we're ruled by this, and it leads us to do things that would harm children even. That's nuts. That's insane to me, like, to look at that. And yet it's so pervasive within us. And so what I really want to look at today is, how can we work with that? What are strategies that can help us to move beyond the need to set up conditions where we'll be happy, and to actually be able to experience happiness regardless of the different circumstances around us, or even the circumstances within us? One way that this is approached in meditation is through a deep concentration practice, and what I would call a transcendence practice. Now, this would be really focusing on one thing and pouring yourself into it, regardless of what's arising and falling away, regardless of what you're feeling, regardless of what's happening around you. Total and utter concentration. And as this deepens in ways that must be experienced, that we can't really imagine, then there is a transcendent peace that arises. I think of somebody who's just devoted their entire life, somebody, you could use the stereotype, I guess, of like a bearded yogi in a cave. And they're like, I remember when I was a kid, I saw a documentary. I think I was somewhere in high school or middle school, and there was like a documentary at school about these yogis, and they're meditating. I'm like, oh, what? This guy's just off in a gross cave. That'd be terrible. I don't want to do that. And then, there's this old guy, he looked kind of grizzled, big. I'm like, no, I don't want that. I want to take showers and stuff, and eat foods that I like, and go to movies and things, and have fun. But I've since realized that there's enormous value in that choice, and living in a way that does devote significant time and attention to deepening a transcendence practice. So I have enormous respect for those who walk that path. And I think probably for most of us here, there is transcendence practice can be beneficial for all of us. It's something that we're working on, we're working towards. Out at the Monastic Academy, something that we're practicing. Coming to meditation sit is, we're moving towards that ability to be in a transcendent state where conditions fall away entirely. But that being said, it's not necessarily realistic or practical or conducive to what we've got going on in our lives at all times. And again, not to say that path is not valid, but we've just got stuff going on, and many of us aren't at a place where we can instantly and constantly transcend everything and just let everything naturally flow past us. So what we'll be working with today is looking at more of the, I guess you could say mundane, but the everyday practices that we can institute into our lives to start building goodness in every situation, conditionally, not necessarily, I would say not necessarily the same bliss that you're going to get if you're in a deep state, but we can actually be moving towards that as well. And we can find deep satisfaction and happiness in every situation. And I keep saying goodness. I can define that as it could be gratitude, compassion for others, connection, pleasure, something that we can enjoy. And these are forms of goodness that we can find everywhere. So I've got some notes here. I can just show you to illustrate my example. You know, we've got stuff going on in our lives. This is my to-do list at the Monastic Academy. A lot of people think like, oh, they're out there in this like beautiful paradise training. Yes, we are, but we're also quite active in doing things like paying the Fred's energy bill and transferring something to QuickBooks and looking at the Amazon account. And anyway,
you mean you're not harvesting grasshoppers for dinner?
I hear cricket protein is like a new thing that people are into, so maybe we could do that. I don't know. Probably violate some of the agreements that we make not to harm living beings, but yeah. So really, like, the main question that we want to be asking is, where can I find some bit of goodness right now? This curiosity is key. Where can I find some little aspect of pleasure right now? What can I be grateful for right now? And this question is very powerful. This inquiry is very powerful. So one little bit of pleasure, where could it be? It could be a lot of pleasure too. It doesn't have to be just a little bit. But I'm convinced that there's almost always a little bit of each of these things, if not a lot. Like right now, like I feel a little bit of pleasure just on the seat of my cushion. It's nice and warm on my rear end, you know? Or just the sunlight coming through. It's just a simple little thing. It's like, oh, this is nice, you know? Like, I'm grateful that we have this space, this beautiful spot where we are together. I'm grateful for all of you, you know? Like, I'm just looking around, and there's goodness out there. It's just, what are we choosing to be interested in? Where are we putting our focus? We can be more intentional about that, and that's how we move from unconsciousness to a more active, conscious way of enjoying our lives and being in goodness. I think of the example of doing this in the grocery store recently, and you know, standing in line and just being like, oh, this cashier is, what are they having a bad day or what? This is bad. There's a big line backing up. Why don't they call somebody? You know, getting into this kind of frustration, irritation, distraction, and then coming back and asking myself, well, where's the goodness right now? And suddenly it was so obvious. I mean, looking around, it's like, wow, like, there's food. I get to eat delicious food. Like, I have clothing. Like, I can breathe clean air. This is incredible. I'm alive. Just any time we can find that there's goodness everywhere. And we also see that really the opposite is true. We can always be mired in frustration or longing for something else. The grass is always greener, they always say. I'm a fan of like cheesy anecdotes that have truth. So, yeah, like I think of when I was I don't know, I could choose to be embarrassed about it, I guess, but this story when I was a kid, I was probably like 10 or 11 years old, and my dad took my sister and I on a fishing trip in Canada. It's like a fishing trip. Wow, great opportunity, right? So we get there, and we get to this little cabin where we're staying, and I discovered something horrifying. Nowhere in the entire cabin was there a television set. And I was really upset. I started getting, you know, throwing a bit of a tantrum and complaining and, you know, why I can't go a whole 4 days without TV. And, I mean, I thought that I needed a TV to be happy. And, you know, I was a kid, but that conditioning is so pervasive, you know, even at that young age. And it captured me. It brought me into a place of great, it was just not a good place to be. And it also harmed those around me. I mean, my dad and my sister were like, whoa, what? No. Are you kidding? And suddenly their entire experience, their trip, was brought down because I was upset, and it was just bad. So, and it's just so clear. That's just such a clear example. One of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is like, here I am in this beautiful, pristine wilderness in Canada. You know, like I'm about to just spend several days with my family who I love. I'm gonna be in a nice, cozy cabin. I'm gonna be getting out on the lake in a boat. Like, this is awesome. And yet, even in amazing circumstances, we can find something to be upset about. So we begin to see that really our happiness is dependent upon something that goes beyond what's happening without and even within. And I said that I like cheesy, what are they anecdotes, or I guess cheesy
Proverbs.
like phrase, what?
Proverbs?
Proverbs, yes. So, you know, the glass can be half full or half empty. Just had to work that one in. Yeah, so, you know, as we make this choice, you know, we see sometimes this arises spontaneously where we do find gratitude or goodness or happiness or pleasure or whatever. Sometimes we have it spontaneously, which is great, but we don't want to wait. We don't want to be bound and kind of at the whim of spontaneity. We want to be able to have more say in how we're experiencing the world. And because also spontaneously we can also have lack of gratitude. We can have irritation. We can have, I guess you could say, badness. I know you could get into sort of the transcendent, there is no good or bad, duality is an illusion, but for this sort of down to earth conversation, the bad stuff, we can find that anywhere. And so mindfulness is really something that we do. Mindfulness is a practice that we do. And finding the goodness is something that we can actively do. And this has a few advantages. One of them being that, as I said, it pulls us away from just the seemingly random rise and fall of goodness, badness, being pulled around by circumstances. But it also helps us to deepen those experiences that we do have that we could call good or goodness. It helps us to experience them more richly, experience them more fully. And it also is a feedback loop. It's a habit that we're building. So each time that we find something good in our experience, we're going to be more likely to do that next time. It's going to be easier to do next time. We're going to have it occur more deeply next time. So we want to build these habits. That's why mindfulness is active. And I mentioned transcendence earlier, and I believe that this actually can, in a way, come back to transcendence. Because at one point we will, or we may, find that there's just an inherent goodness that you don't really have to really define anymore. Like, yeah, so I guess an example, and we can do this transcendently too. I think I can explain it maybe with this example. So I used to live in Portland, Oregon, beautiful city. I would ride the bus to work every day from my house in North Portland down to the downtown area. I worked with the Death with Dignity National Center. We have Death with Dignity law here. I digress. I would ride the bus, I would sit on the bus, and every day people would get on the bus. And I would be, kind of just hanging out. I'd see people get on the bus. And I noticed that I would immediately have some sort of judgment about the people that were coming on. You're like, oh, wow, that person looks great. Like, they have fancy clothes. Like, they must be a good person. They must be successful. They're cool. maybe they're better than me. Or, ugh, wow, that person looks horrible. Gosh, I don't like them. They probably, they look homeless, like they are unattractive to me. I hope they don't sit by me. Oh, so these judgments would come. Each person that would come on. Oh, that person looks fun. Oh, that person I don't like. Oh, I'm afraid of that person. And it started getting to me. And so, because I realized, I was just like, this isn't good. This isn't a loving way to be. This isn't a nice way to be. Like, I don't want somebody to treat me like that. And it's not right for me to do that to other people. So I started doing this practice where every time somebody would walk on the bus, as soon as they were getting on, without any sort of judgment, before that place of analyzing and comparing and judging would happen, I would just say, I love you. No strings attached. No, I love you, or I could love you, except you smell bad. No, just I love you. Just I love you, just I love you. And I said that to everybody that would get on the bus.
To yourself.
Say that to myself. Well, I didn't really say that to myself at the time, but I guess I was a person getting on the bus, and yeah, if I was judging myself, that would have been a good thing to do.
No, not out loud.
Yeah.
When a person got on the bus, you didn't say, I love you.
Oh, I just said it. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, I didn't say I love you to myself. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Yes, correct. I would not say it out loud. I'm sorry. I should have clarified that. That might have got on the news or something for that. I wasn't quite that bold yet. It's a good idea, though. I like it. No, I would just say it in my head. I would just kind of have my mental little I love you inside, and just kind of hang out. And
I noticed you smiled when you said it. You probably smiled at them.
I probably did, yeah. I noticed. there are times where somebody would come and sit next to me, and I just wow, I'm really happy that they're here, and it started transforming my life. This was actually early in my meditation career. This is about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago when I lived in Portland, and it started having real effect on my life. I was more compassionate towards people. I was more loving. I was more friendly. I was generally happier. I was more present. It was great. So, yeah, it also just became a habit that I would just love the things around me and treat them well. It built it up. It would deepen. It would become richer. And it's not perfect, and there's still judgment that comes up, or there's still different reactions, but then I also started saying I love you to that, It's oh, I'm afraid. Well, I say to the fear, I love you, And then you can just drop the I and the you and just say love. Just say love. Just love. Why not? So that's all very rosy and lovely. Literally lovely. But, yeah, what about those difficult circumstances? If everything was just happy and automatically, then we wouldn't really need to have this conversation. So it would be disingenuous of me to not go into the tough times. And I think the first thing to say is, when it comes to everything we're talking about here, it's not bad to have anger or fear or any other bad emotion. It's certainly not, it's not something we should push away. It's not something we should repress or feel shame about. So I want to make that clear, because a lot of what I'm saying is sort of we can just be happy all the time, and maybe I'm not good if I'm not happy. No, it's just, there's no need to repress or judge or feel bad about those challenging or difficult emotions or experiences that we have. So I hope that's clear. so there's two ways we can kind of look at this, and then of course the third transcendent way. The first way is in the unified mindfulness system that Shinzen Young teaches, to turn away from the challenging experience that we're having. So for instance, I look back, when I was in the grocery store example, I was feeling frustrated, I was feeling rushed, I was feeling irritated. I chose to turn away from that and to explore what else is there. Is there goodness here somewhere? Is there gratitude? Whoa, there's tons of gratitude. I chose to turn away. That's the turn away technique. But there's another way to do it. We can also turn towards the bad things, the challenging, the difficult, the uncomfortable things. We can explore them. We can actually face them head on. This can be very liberating and powerful to actually explore. Okay, like, I'm feeling irritated. Like, where is that in my body? Like, what's happening here? Is this a pattern? Like, just exploring with inquisitiveness, investigating. This is not always possible. I don't want you to think that, like, if you have like really bad pain in your back, you have to be there with it. But it's just one strategy to explore. And it can actually be very transformative. You may find that within that challenging situation or that challenging emotion, feeling, physical sensation, that there actually is something very interesting going on. You may actually find like that by getting into it, in a lot of ways, you free it. I'll tell a little story. I was at the dentist recently. I think we've all been there. I hope we've all been there. And I was getting a routine teeth cleaning where they scrape away the stuff. Yeah, even just the mention of it, people are cringing in the group here. So like I was there and they were scraping away and they were shining light on me and I was like, oh, I don't like this. I want to go home. And then I remembered mindfulness. And I started to do the turn towards practice, where I actually said, like, I'm just going to explore and face and be with all these crazy sensations that are happening in my mouth, elsewhere in my body, things I'm hearing. And suddenly the whole thing transformed. Instead of like sort of like unconsciously trying to run away and struggling, I was like on this wild roller coaster ride where I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, there's this water squirting in my mouth. Oh, I taste blood. Whoa, what does that taste like? Oh my gosh, that's iron. This is crazy. Oh, the scraping, it's so intense. There's scraping noises filling my ears and there's a bright light. It's so intense. It was wild and it was kind of fun. And I also like just got into it. And I was like, and then the gratitude. Whoa, like here I am. I'm getting my teeth cleaned. People all over the world, people throughout history would love to have this healthcare. And wow, I can be really grateful for it. So by turning into what I was feeling uncomfortable with, I actually became very present. This is one of the benefits of focusing on turning towards something that's uncomfortable, is that it actually pulls us into the present really quick. You become very, very present. If you have a pain, you're not going to be zoning out. You're not going to be unconscious. You're going to be there. And there is benefit to that in terms of building that concentration. And then I also use the turn away of just like the gratitude. So you see in that circumstance, I incorporated both techniques. And I could have also said that I love you. I could have just said, oh, there's pain, I love you. Oh, I'm grateful, I love you. Oh, there's a dental hygienist, I love you. Oh, there's a bright light, I love you. Just, it sounds weird, but it's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing in a lot of ways. That love, like, because like, it may feel disingenuous, it may feel fake, but what happens, at least what's happened for me, is that something unlocks and I realize that I actually do have love for the world, for people, for existence, for life. Yeah. Mm. Mm. So I think it's time to practice mindfulness. As I said, this is a practice that we do. So let's reposition ourselves into whatever way is comfortable. You can feel free to stand up, sit down, lie down, whatever works for you, for your body. And I want to remind you that any time throughout the guided meditation, you can feel free to reposition yourself, or if you need to take care of your body in some other way, like getting a drink of water, bathroom, that is okay. Yeah. Let's start out by relaxing into focus on the breath. Bring your awareness to your breath. You may notice the rise and fall of the body as you breathe in and out. Finding curiosity and turning your natural inquisitiveness towards the breath. What's happening? Where is the breath? What sensations accompany the breath in this moment? And let the breath fill your awareness. Other sensations, sounds may arise and fall around you, other feelings in your body. That's quite all right. Just let them be and exist with the state of your breath. Immersing yourself in the breath. Whatever else may be happening around or within, shine your light of awareness onto the breath. And just be there with the breath. Good. Now see if you can find anything pleasurable about the breath. Any bit of pleasure anywhere in any part of the breath. Something that's nice. Maybe there's pleasure in the gentle warmth or coolness of the breath. Find something there that's pleasant. And if you can't find anything, that's okay. Just stay with the breath, however it is. Good. Now, stay with the breath and see if you can find any gratitude in the breath. Any sense of being appreciative of the breath, with the breath in any way. Being with the breath, being with any sense of gratitude. And if gratitude is not present, then that's okay too. Just be with the breath. gratitude, breath, breath, and gratitude. Explore that. Immerse yourself. Good. Now look for a sense of peace in the breath. Where is there peace in this breath? How is this breath peace? If the breath does not feel peace, that's okay. Be with the breath in whatever way is alive for you. Good. Now see if the breath holds any compassion for you. In what way does the breath have concern, love, connection, compassion for yourself, for others? Ask this question of the breath as you immerse yourself. Is there compassion here? experience compassion, maybe a little, maybe a lot, maybe none. Stay with the breath. And you may ask yourself again, where is compassion? How is this breath compassion? Good. Now broaden your search in the breath to any of the goodness that we've discussed, be it gratitude, compassion, pleasure, peace, or any other kind of goodness. Keep searching your breath and asking, how is this breath goodness? Where is goodness in this breath? If one particular type of goodness calls to you, such as peace or gratitude, then be with that in the breath. Or maybe a number of types of goodness are pulling within the breath. Wonderful. Be with those. If you find yourself distracted or lost, then ask yourself the question, where is goodness in this breath? This is an exploration. Whatever you find is okay. find one aspect of the breath or one part of the breath that is full of goodness, you may stay there. Or you may choose to move to a deeper exploration of the breath, looking for other ways that there's gratitude in the breath, that there's compassion in the breath, or there's peace in the breath. So you may deepen your search, or you may choose to broaden your search. Good. Now turn your attention from the breath towards the different phenomena that you're experiencing, that you're hearing, that you're feeling, that you may be seeing. Leaving the breath behind, although you may notice it as well, but also incorporating the sounds of the insects around you, or the church bell, or the wind. If you have your eyes closed, you may be experiencing fanciful images, or maybe a gray screen, maybe some colored lights. You may have emotions that you're feeling in your body, or physical sensations such as the feeling of your feet on the floor, your palms touching. Broaden your awareness to any sensory phenomena that you're seeing, hearing, or feeling, anywhere within the range of your experience. You can allow yourself to be pulled from one experiential phenomenon to another. One moment, it may be the feeling of the tongue on the roof of your mouth. The next, Perhaps it's the sound of a bird chirping. Or maybe you're drawn to one thing. It's all good. And as you reacquaint yourself with the world, within and without, ask yourself, where is goodness? Do you find a sense of peace in the rhythmic chirping of the crickets? Or not? Ask yourself, where is peace? Search around for it. Where is compassion? Maybe you feel it somewhere in your body. You may feel a sense of connection. Find it, explore it, be with it. It may come in the form of inner talk, your own inner voice, a monologue saying things. Wow, this feels nice. Or, I really like the sound of his voice. Sorry. Maybe you just enjoyed a little laughter. Or where's the gratitude? You can search for it. You can actually say those words in your head. Where is the gratitude? In what way am I grateful for the presence of these wonderful friends, for the time to be here practicing? You may find that there's a lot going on. And that's the way it is. Whatever's arising, ask yourself, where's the goodness in this? And if you find things that are difficult or challenging, unpleasant or irritating, then that's okay. Just ask yourself again, where can I find some form of goodness somewhere in my current experience? If this is too busy for you, you may also choose to narrow your focus, maybe back to the breath. If you like, you can search for goodness in the breath once again. Or you can continue to have the very wide open playing field of everything that you're hearing, everything that you're seeing. Maybe the images that dance in front of you are exciting. You feel love for them. Or maybe not, and that's okay. Just keep searching. Where is the peace in this experience? Where is the compassion? Where is gratitude? How is this sense of joy? This is a journey through your senses. See what's there. What can you get interested in? Can you find interest in the piece of the gray screen behind your eyes? Can you find interest in the feeling of compassion and connection for the people around you? If not, that's okay. Just keep looking. If something challenging or unpleasant arises, that's okay. Just gently turn away from it, allow it to be, and see what else is there. See if you can find goodness in some other aspect of your experience. And in a moment, I'm going to ring a bell, and we're going to have a little bit of time to continue this technique in movement. Be able to walk around, inside or outside, and enjoy the day. If you'd like, you can always remain seated or continue to practice where you are. But you're invited to continue to see if you can find goodness. Taking a little stroll around outside. So for the next few minutes, feel free to enjoy walking around, moving, stretching, inside or outside. And we'll have someone come around with this bell. I know it's not very loud, but when it's time to return to the group, we'll ring this bell.
Just a test.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna figure this out.
It was nice to have you. We'll see you next some other time soon.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Keep exploring that sense of goodness. See if you can keep finding goodness in whatever's arising right now. Maybe it's a little, maybe it's a lot. It's okay if there's not much or none. Good. Continue practicing the search for goodness. But now, if any sort of challenging or difficult experience arises for you, maybe it's physical pain or difficult emotional experience. If any sort of challenging experience arises, instead of turning away from it, I invite you to explore turning towards it, exploring it, investigating with curiosity. what is this irritation? What is this sense of being rushed? Or what is this discomfort? Just explore it. You don't have to go seeking anything that's unpleasant, but if it arises, treat it as an opportunity to be curious. And you may choose to stay with the challenging experience, or you may choose to move along to, once again, search for something that's full of gratitude or peace. This is your journey. If it gets to be too difficult, maybe too painful or too overwhelming, then you can choose to either try and stay with it, or you can always come back to the breath. You can always come back to the breath, no matter what's going on for you. It's always the breath, the refuge, the breath. Something pleasurable or beautiful arises, be with that. If you find something that's challenging, try being with that if you like. Try exploring any phenomena. Perhaps, even in something painful or scary, you can find a sense of compassion. You can find a sense of connection. Maybe there's even peace there. Maybe there's even pleasure there. Explore. Or return to the breath. now. You can choose to be with the breath. You can choose to turn towards things that are full of goodness. You can choose to turn towards any phenomena with inquisitiveness, or you can choose to say to each phenomena, regardless of whether it's happy, sad, pleasurable, or painful, I love you. I love you. There's no need to investigate further. There's no need to try and find peace there. Simply say, I love you. To anything that arises, anything you feel, anything that you taste, anything that you see or hear, I love you. Anything that irritates you, I love you. Anything that feels wonderful, I love you. Open yourself to this unconditional love. I love you. You may drop the I, drop the you, and then there's just love. just love. Each rising and falling experience, love. Just a moment, I'm going to ring a bell. We'll return from the practice, transitioning into a time of discussion. So now we have a chance to interact with each other. We can have any questions or share any experiences. This is your time, and I'm happy to be here with you. So any questions or things you want to talk about? Tony.
I'll go. I really like the a lot of what you were doing I got from because I use Shinzen's book on the pain, and I used the breath pleasure track a lot. I used all of them, and I've been a lot of what. So it seemed very similar, and so I was practicing what I'm practice a lot, and accept the joy and the peace. Like I would find peace at the end of my breath, and then also joy. So I look at the peace and joy as, kind of just, it's not what I'm really searching for, but it's something that you can, that in my practice that I get, and gratitude that I do get, or I'm reminded of. The love thing was completely different for me, and I loved it.
Oh, good.
I did. I practiced the love, and I found for me that the peace and the joy came from love. Like had an order for me. Like the love was above, like superseded. And so it was a great experiment for me, kind of like a realization. I've never done that, ever. And I also noticed that when I said love, there was a smile. I could feel myself smiling. And then, I could, like the kids playing, wow, what's more peaceful and joyful about being in a society where kids are playing safely, Yeah, so it was really powerful.
Mm.
It's amazing just that one, like the being able to feel and the feel the love, being able to feel the love and distinguish where the love for me, that the peace and the joy was actually coming from love first. Very cool.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's really good to hear. Yeah. Yeah, there is something deep there. There is something that underlies. And for me, I think the key is, in my experience, that the unconditionality, there is something within us that loves without all this other stuff layered on, without having to analyze and assess and do all these things that probably have survival value, I guess. You know, say, oh, okay, what do I have to do to, oh, this is scary because it might hurt me. But there's something there. It's hard to put into words. But yeah, I'm glad that you tapped into that in a way that was meaningful. Thank you for sharing.
I have a question. Were you able to like stay with the experience at the dentist the entire time, or did you go back into aversion?
Yeah, I think. Well, what's common, I think, in all of these techniques is that it's easy to slip in and out of being with the technique and then maybe getting distracted. I think that's just a matter of concentration that you'll find with any meditation technique. And as you continue to practice and build, then you'll have more and more sustained concentration. You'll also go deeper into each experience. But in that particular example, I mean, yeah, it was like riding a wild stallion, you know. It was like there were times where I was just like, oh my God, get me out of here. And then there are times then, you know, okay, stay with it. Whoa, this is interesting. This is intense. This is extreme. This is, whoa, this is different. Weird. What's that? Oh, whoa, the light's bright. And then, no. And then, oh, wait, okay. Oh, interesting. There's a sound. Oh, wow. I'm actually really glad that I'm here getting this done, because then I'll be healthy and live long and be happy, or be at least able to have a life and be happy. So in that example, it was definitely, you know, a challenge. It wasn't like I just decided to do the technique and then was, you know, for the next 15 or 20 minutes unbroken concentration. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? I mean, hey, let's keep practicing, and that's what we're working towards. But whatever it is, really, I mean, to me, even if it's not a zero-sum game. Even if there's a small bit of improvement in our lives, that's something. That's good. You know, even if it's like some level of gratitude in a really difficult situation, even if it's some small bit of relief in a situation where we're consumed by pain, or you know, even if it's just a little bit of compassion when we're really upset and mad about someone's actions, that's a little seed. And for me, what I've learned is that I found to find that in somewhere in a situation that I thought was completely horrible, 100% bad, and then to find even if there's a little tiny bit of peace, even in something that's really scary and terrifying and uncomfortable, but just okay, there's some little bit of peace. Well, if I can find a little bit of peace, then maybe there's more. Or like, maybe I can build on that. Maybe I can immerse in that. And it's just like, it's kind of like opening the doorway, just a crack. And once you've got to open a crack, then maybe you can open it a little wider. Maybe you can find more compassion. And then eventually maybe you can walk through the door. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Andrea.
I really liked paying attention to all phenomena,
Ah.
and I also heard the children playing. It was a very rich here out for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I found I wasn't narrating my experience, which is kind of rare. Except the times I said, "Wow, I'm not narrating my experience," and then I would go back to sort of just being completely immersed in and particularly in sound, but also in sensation in my body. And then even when we were walking around outside, like I saw a squirrel jumping in a tree, and instead of saying, you know, I usually just always talk to myself, "Oh, there's a squirrel jumping in a tree," but I was just completely consumed with watching the squirrel jump in the tree. So it was, I loved that.
Very nice. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. And I think, I think with this technique, again, there's, we're working here with something that's more sort of worldly in a lot of ways. And so it can be helpful to use inner talk to our advantage sometimes, to use these, what they would say in unified mindfulness, these labels. So actually asking ourselves, like, where is the peace? Or we may have an experience where we just completely transcend any of that, and we're just naturally drawn to the peace. We're naturally interested in, you know, the love we have for this squirrel, or we're just with it in a way that is naturally loving. We're with it in a way that is there. So I think sometimes it's nice to have these ways of working through and, you know, kind of like asking ourselves in our head, where is the compassion? Where is the gratitude? Other times we're just flowing with it. We're just finding it. We're just moving towards it without having to really narrate at all. And that's nice. I think that's one of the places where you want to be. You know, that's a significant experience. So I'm really happy to hear that.
Thank you. I did start out with as you led, you know, asking for goodness, or asking to see goodness, asking to see peace, and it just naturally led me into, you know, narration, which, like I said, is rare. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, and that can be a way to do it, is to, you know, kind of have that initial question, like, where do I feel peace? And then suddenly, like, it's just there, and you don't have to keep asking. You can, because then maybe you'll find peace elsewhere. Maybe the question will help you to deepen into the peace even more. But once you've found it, or as you're finding it, you may not need to do that, and that's a nice place to be. So keep it going. Yeah, really happy to hear that.
My experience was I've been kind of on edge this week, and I usually when I come here, it doesn't take me long to get into a deeper kind of more meditative state, whatever, good state. But this time I was like not in a good space the whole time, and tried all the different techniques. You know, it was nice to be outside. It's not like there wasn't nice parts of it. There were moments of pleasure and gratitude and, you know, those little sparks of joy. The biggest thing is my body feels really good, and I just kept going, I feel so good, I feel so good. That was a real pleasure piece. But towards the end, I tried the other one where you were going into the love, and I realized Jess has so much negativity in my head, so I started saying love to the negativity, and that kind of broke it. It finally broke like about 5 minutes before the end, and then that kind of opened a door to a peaceful kind of feeling, a more relaxed feeling in my head, because it's just like I kept saying, oh, I love that feeling of hate. Oh, I love that feeling of, I love that feeling of whatever was going on in my head. I can't even remember now, but, some judgment I have, or, yeah.
Hmm.
But there seemed to be kind of a release when I started doing love.
Hmm.
Were you loving like the agitation, or were you loving you, the agitated?
The agitation.
Hmm. Wow, that's a very potent share, very powerful. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, sometimes it's like a gong going off. Like you got all these things and then suddenly it's just breaks open the door. And to love everything that's happening unconditionally it's very, very powerful. I actually believe that it's one of the strongest ways that we can work to transform the world. And it seems to be found in every tradition, every wise sage, every mystic. They seem to have this unconditional love, and when it hits, it's not subtle often. Like your experience, you're winding through these things and searching here and there, finding some contentment in your body, but still, and then suddenly it's just open. Yeah. I'm glad to hear it.
Finally go,
Yeah. You've been holding it all in, and then finally you can release. It's nice. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. That was really wonderful. I've used a lot of loving kindness practice myself to continuously deal with pain. So I thought that was pretty powerful. Talking about the breath and turning in, trying to find the goodness, journey into your situation, journey into the sensation that you carry. I know for me, the pain can feel very limiting and can pull me out of a lot of experiences, just because it's a constant distraction. So to be able to pull back in and face it sort of again, and be present with it, it made me realize, okay, that's something that I have to struggle with, to be at peace with or have acceptance for, but the more I face it, the more acceptance I continue to have. So, thank you. And also being out in the garden and seeing all of these beautiful things, you feel a real sense of unity, connection, and I think for me that can be really powerful to feel that the beauty that I see around me, I also have a certain level of beauty and resilience and courage within me, and to just acknowledge that that's present, and it's something that is shared amongst all of us who suffer.
Beautiful words and a powerful share. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing what you can find in the breath too. It's like, wow. You name it, it's there. Yeah. Just such gratitude too. I mean, you said it's just like, wow, everything. life, plants. Yeah. I'm glad that you had that, and I hope that you can carry these tools with you, as we go into our lives. I wanted to offer something that could be used in everyday situations. Really, I think almost every situation. So, the next time you're dealing with pain or something else comes up that's a challenge, my hope is that perhaps one of the techniques that I've given you today will be useful. And I think it's worth noting too, we kind of did a lot today and I talked about a lot, so if one thing stuck with you, take that. If other stuff was like, that's okay, you could probably practice some of these techniques on any of that if you want. I'm getting a little convoluted, but yeah. Did you have a hand up too? Oh no, okay. Okay, great. Well, yeah, I guess it's my sincere hope that these practices can help us to live our lives in ways that are loving and that are full of goodness. And I thank you for being here.